Well, good morning, everybody. As we get started today, I'm going to fast forward a bit to Friday, just because it'll be Friday that the first of a series of very strong onshore flow events begins for the West Coast. What we're looking at here is the jet stream animation from that day, and it's that extended Pacific jet that'll dip down toward Hawaii and make this turn toward California. Now, as we're watching the models kind of hone in on exactly what we'll be seeing from this, and then subsequently how these systems will traverse the United States, I was interested to see just how much moisture will be in this. We often call these the Pineapple Express because of where they originate in terms of their moisture coming from Hawaii and coming straight toward California. And I was looking at the total precipitable water being forecast here by the European model, and it appears that on Friday about midday, the precipitable water values, which is basically how much moisture is in the atmosphere to be precipitated out, could be somewhere between 4 and 6 standard deviations above the mean. So just thinking about a distribution of that value, we are so far out on the tail here that we're kind of approaching record territory. Now, I'll be out in California next week for the Agritech Summit, and it'll be a very new experience for me to be in the middle of one of these atmospheric river events, because we are expecting one again next week. In fact, there's about 4 of them lined up to hit California. And so I thought I'd show you just a useful tool that I built here. It's just ag-wx.com. This is my ag weather website. It's going through a redesign. I built it a long time ago and just keep putting more and more maps on it. But if you want any of the maps I produce in these reports, they're all right here. ag-wx.com, agweather.com. But over here on the left, this is where I can kind of go through and pull out. I have a 30,000 city database in here, so I go in and pull out these forecasts. So I'll be in San Francisco, so I just want to show you what San Francisco's had. So I started typing it in, click on it, it'll put the index number in there, and when you click submit, you're going to get the forecast. So just thinking about San Francisco, and this is what will show up for you here. I wanted to take you down and just show you a couple of things. Right now in San Francisco, they're currently at 164% of normal on precipitation, so they're sitting right here. Black lines compared to average. Now just look at this. Last year, this line right down here was where they currently sat with precipitation. So just to see this dramatic of an increase is just really saying something. Then what you can do is you can kind of flip over and say, well, show me the multi-model analysis on precipitation. So this is just the number of events coming through and their timing from the European, the GFS, and the national blend of models over the next 10 days. So you can kind of hover over and see when and where the total precipitation is expected. So a lot. They're expecting somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 inches of rain just in the next 10 days alone. But I was a bit more interested in another spot. I won't be going there, but what if I were to go to, let's get this back here, Tahoe. So if we click on that, take a look at this. For Tahoe right now, they're at 222% of normal on precipitation. But the 7-day forecast and the 10-day forecast is what's just blowing my mind. So here's the year-to-date total precip. So average would be 8.4. They're at 18.9. So there's that more than doubling. But I want to show you this. This is the 10-day ECMWF and GFS snowfall. So click on this radio button, and this is what you get. And I just realized I'm going to have to go back and make some adjustments to this, because I didn't realize when I wrote the scripts that I made kind of these maximum values here, and they're not valid in this area, because right now the ECMWF is putting down 90 inches in the next 10 days in Tahoe and 57 from the GFS. So even if we took the low end of this, we're looking at more than 4 feet of snow, and the high end of this, I mean, we're over 8 feet of snow. It's just incredible to think about what could be coming in to the west with these events. So I just wanted to show you this tool, and hopefully it's something that you all can find a lot of use in. Now, before we even get there, we still have a system spinning off the west coast. And that's what the winter storm warnings are out for this part of California. But the new flood watch that's been issued into this area, this is all due to the upcoming events that will be coming through. Now, we do have winter storm advisories that stretch from Montana through South Dakota, parts of the Red River Valley of the North, and a winter storm watch into this area of the upper Midwest. And there's still a major flooding issue going on down here in parts of the Mid-South we need to talk about. But I want to queue up the newest high-resolution models. We'll start this off at 8 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday. We're going to see how these events kind of all take shape here. So as we play this forward, all right, we're going to be seeing that more rain is expected to come to the area. We had some showers and storms last night right in through here with snow throughout the day today into tomorrow in parts of the northern plains. See it right in through there. This is getting now into Thursday morning. So this system that's taking shape here on Wednesday but getting into Thursday, by the afternoon we'll start to spread more snow into parts of the Dakotas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, with rain to the south of it where it's still mild in Missouri and Illinois. And so this will move over kind of like the Chicagoland area by Thursday evening and then press into lower Michigan as we get into the overnight hours on Friday morning. You do notice kind of how this front is getting stalled out in this area. So that's where we're going to expect to see the chances on today, tomorrow for some stronger storms in this area. But then as the front lines out, it's going to really lose its punch here. But while all of that was happening, come back to the west. Ready? So let's pick this up again Wednesday night and play into the early morning hours on Thursday. And this is when we expect the first push of moisture to be coming in to California. But the major push will be overnight on Thursday, getting into Friday. So just look at how strong this onshore flow event will be. Now, just thinking about that, let's go look at how the pattern is going to evolve after that. So in this particular animation, the blues are troughs, the reds represent ridges. And I'm just looking for the overall activity of this setup. So we do have on Thursday a little wave that's coming out here. This is the one that's helping to create the low I just talked about coming through the Midwest. That one does eventually make it into New England. We'll take a look at the snowfall there in a few moments. That'll happen later on this week. But after that, we notice that a pair of troughs skirt through the kind of U.S.-Canada border here, all while a deeper trough sits here. So that's the setup for the strong onshore flow event into California. Now, that trough that's coming right here over the Red River Valley of the North on Sunday, and we'll take a look at that snowfall in a few moments. This one's got me just a bit intrigued as it comes over the East Coast, because remember yesterday we looked at all of the different forecast ensemble members on where this could potentially be setting up a storm system. Now, if this trough was farther to the south and there was a larger ridge that was in place right in through here, we'd be looking at a significant East Coast storm system. It's got one of the components to it, and so we're going to look at what this might do to the East Coast early next week. That's Monday, Tuesday. But what you notice is there's nothing slowing this pattern down as we get here past the middle of the month. So what do we have? Troughs. And that's a very active and very wavy pattern. This is what's kind of prompting this very unsettled time period for much of the United States. So we're going to look at some total precipitation maps. This is just through the next 7 days. Greatest flooding threat, again, is going to be where that front stalls out over parts of the Mid-South. A lot of this into this area will, of course, be snow. We'll take a look at the snowfall totals in a few moments. But now we can see the WPC has pushed the Sierra Nevada, the Northern California, coastal California to over 10 inches of total liquid coming in with this, with even heavy snows coming up into the Cascades. So to kind of see it all, let's use our 10-day forecast models from the GFS and the European. Now we've already watched through Thursday, so there's the central United States system on Thursday. That's the one that's putting down the snow coming out of the Dakotas into Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, all right? So that system then tries to go into New England. So notice here that by Friday, we do have snows coming out of southern Ontario into New York and Pennsylvania. It's starting to show up better in the models. The front is relatively weak as it moves through the mid-Atlantic and down here into the southeast. So we're not looking at major precipitation totals, but this will be some rain for the Carolinas and Virginia. Now, as that moves into New England, you can see that the models put the rain-snow line somewhere close to New York City, and then that system gets offshore. Remember the second wave I told you about? So there were two short waves that followed, one here and one here. So we can see the snow that's coming out of the Canadian Prairie into the Northern Plains. This will be on Saturday. And then that system takes shape over parts of the Ohio River Valley. There's actually two separate pieces to it. And this is the one where we're trying to see what this does into New England. Now, the GFS kicks the system out because the high pressure is further to the west. The Europeans got a bit higher pressure closer to the system, and therefore it's attempting to pull it around that deeper trough into New England. So the net effect of it is the GFS tosses the system out, the European keeps it along the coast by Monday, and bigger snows in the interior of New York, possibly a lot of snow into the interior of New England. Now, while I did all of that, I ignored what was going on in California. So can I take you back again? Watch the West Coast in both models. Here's the push on Friday. That moves through. We then go into the weekend with just constant onshore flow. And then we get into early next week. That's Monday coming through. Tuesday, that's system number 3. By next Friday, that's system number 4. And I think the European model probably has a better idea about what the troughs are going to be like across the open Pacific and their timing as compared to the GFS at this point. So we're just kind of watching those systems move through. So you say, well, how much liquid is in all of this? Well, this is the chance of getting at least an inch of total precipitation. So this is what happens if you melt down the snow. This is 2 inches. Let's keep going up to 4 inches over the next 10 days. Probability of 8 inches of liquid, and now you see where the highest spots are right in through here. On the snow side of this is what the maps are looking like in terms of the probability over the next 10 days of getting at least 3 inches of snow. We can step that up to 6 inches of snow. And again, we're not going to use this for the west. We're going to primarily be using it for this corridor and through here. Probability again of 6 inches. Here's the probability of a foot. And the big unknowns are what's going to be happening right in through here. Okay, I think there's a lot of 3 to 10 inch snow in through this area, but New England is going to be very, very challenging to forecast because if the low goes like that versus like this, it's 2 entirely different setups, and that's still, this is next Monday, Tuesday we're talking about. Okay, let's just go out to the West Coast here and have a look at what the total snowfall is expected to be in the West Coast. Just got the newest update in here, so let's play this out. And what we're watching through is each of these events. There's 4 of them in the models, and we're looking at total snowfall. So again, around Tahoe, this is where the huge numbers are, but you can see we're easily going to be over 4 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada. As we've been discussing all week, these snowfall elevations could be up above 5,000 feet at times, but there's bigger snows coming into the upper Colorado Basin, throughout the Northern Rockies, and the Cascades with this as well. Let's shift over to the Midwest now and take a look at total snowfall. This is the system again, watch. This is Thursday into Friday. So we could again see a lot of 3 to 6 inches out of this as it presses over here toward the eastern Great Lakes. But there is a system that follows it. Remember, that's that second wave over the weekend that could add more to these snowfall totals. And I'm going to play this out just to show you, but given all the activity coming into the west, there's another system next Wednesday, Thursday that could hit the same region. So I know a lot of people in this area don't want to see another snowflake. I purely think about this in terms of the water and what it's going to do in terms of recharging soil moisture, which is going to be vital going forward. Now here's the challenging New England forecast. The GFS does not look like this. That first system coming into Pennsylvania, this is the one on Friday into Saturday. This is a pretty robust forecast overall here. It's this second system right there that the models are not in agreement about. And you can even see that the latest European, which is attempting to put down a tremendous amount of moisture early next week, has now pushed the snowfall further into the interior rather than putting it right up against the coast. This is a must-watch situation for me in the forecast here. It's moisture, but where that snow is going to be is really important to try to determine. What about week 2? Overall, it's going to continue to stay wet. Everywhere that you see green here has better chances of seeing above average precipitation. And what I think is going to be very critical is how far back into the western plains this gets. This is a good setup for delivering moisture into this area. Okay, so let's watch this carefully. Flood threat here, flood threat in California. And again, cold enough for snow north, but this is the region I'm going to be watching carefully. I tried to summarize all of it in the report, and I just had to stop drawing because I could have just continued to clutter this up. But over the next 15 days, this is really the setup we're going to be excuse me dealing with here. All right. Now, the temperature side of it, a lot of discussion about frost because of how warm it's been in the south. So this is the next 7 days looking at a frost forecast. So in gray, that's where I think we could go down there and touch those temperatures. But thinking about that, I was talking to a guy last night from northern Louisiana. And again, I want to show you just another feature of this. I'm going to go right into the Delta region into Tallulah. Let's try that again, T-A-L-L. Tallulah. And Louisiana, there we go. And I'd like to show you, this is like on the other side of the river from Vicksburg in Mississippi. So one of the features that we have on this is that if you slide down here again, you can look at your 10-day multi-model temperatures. And one of the things we're concerned about is, if you notice, I put in here these 2 lines representing a frost zone. It's 32 to 36 degrees Fahrenheit. The time I'm concerned about maybe getting down into those upper 30s in this area where they're trying to actively get a crop going right now would be around March the 15th, maybe the 14th, 15th, 16th, that time frame. So we're going to be seeing some colder air dipping pretty far to the south, and this is just a great resource you can be using to kind of monitor that. Looking at the broader temperature pattern, we continue to see the models moderate a bit on the extent of this mid-month cold. It's going to be starting very soon here and then extend from the Canadian Prairie all the way to the East Coast. But the models have stayed again more mild in the southwest with this upcoming pattern. So the duration of this is something we discussed in the report today, and I'll just bring up a quick idea about it. It appears that through the beginning of the third week, we'll keep the colder corridor here. A lot of that's driven by snow, same thing you see here. So it's a snow feedback. But I think toward the end of the month of March, we make a break away from this. There's nothing right now that's blocked in this pattern that's going to keep it stuck. No big ridges over Alaska or Greenland that just squeeze all the cold air and leave it in place. So it's a mid-month cold shot here in March, but I think it's going to moderate toward the end of the month, which is going to have a lot of people thinking about spring planting. So if you don't mind, I want to show you another thing you've got here. I'm going to pick a spot in Iowa now. How about Algona? I've got a good friend there. In Algona, Iowa, if we just take a look at one other feature here, you can come down and go to the 10-day soil conditions forecast. So you click right here and you can get access to that. So we're going to be watching for these soil temperatures, which are in red at 4 inches to get above 50 degrees in Iowa if we're going to be talking about planting. And you can see there's quite a bit of cold air around for the next 10 days. So we're nowhere close to this. We're going to have soil temperatures around freezing. But another thing you can watch is volumetric soil moisture and how it's going to change over time. And so it's important to see that with some of the snow that's possibly coming into Iowa, that these numbers should start going up as that begins to melt. So it's just another tool for you all to use. Okay, I know we're getting long in this quote-unquote morning minute here, but I want to show you what happened in South America yesterday. Now, on the heat that they've had, they did have some storms that blew up here in the western part of Argentina and down here in Buenos Aires. But just as a reminder, the main ag area that we typically talk about is here. So a lot of that area did not receive that beneficial rainfall out of this. And I pulled up some NDVI imagery just looking lately at how things have changed in Buenos Aires over toward Cordoba, Santa Fe, Entre Rios, and they're still now down here at the lowest in the last 20 years. Meanwhile, in Brazil, the NDVI values are at the highest in 20 years. So we look out here over the next 10 days, and it's very wet in Mato Grosso, very wet in parts of central Brazil. This is where our flooding issues have been for the last 45 to 60 days. But along the Paraná River, from Rio Grande do Sul over into those states I just mentioned, we still see very dry conditions. But storms are lingering down south in the latest forecast update. Let's stretch it out and look at a couple other places internationally. Like we talked about all week, there's a complementary atmospheric river event that's coming into Europe, and this is going to be delivering some moisture into places that have been very dry here in Europe this winter. It's also very wet into Queensland where this tropical system is rolling through. And just to show you those temperatures, not much has changed in this forecast, and just to make a point where it's going to be very dry down here in this part of Argentina where the storms are missing, they're going to have temperatures that are going to be up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. So this is some very hot conditions for late summer. So we'll stop there. I appreciate your extra attention. Hopefully you get to use those tools I pointed out to you, and we'll talk again very soon. Thanks.